Alec Pantaleo, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I'm honored to be here.
Definitely. There's so many places we could start, but I wanted to start with Bajrang training with you guys. It may seem odd, but I was just so intrigued that, the great Bajrang, I'd come over and stay with you guys for 2 months, I think it was. And I'm just curious how that all came about and what you learned from that.
Well, so that's the thing about Strong Bro Met, man. As we joke, he's always wearing long sleeves. He has so many tricks up him. And so we heard like, oh yeah, Bajrang might be coming in. I'm like, that's interesting. And then I get a text from Sean saying, hey, next week Bajrang's gonna be here for a month. I'm like, all right. And he's like, yeah, can you come in and work out with him when he gets in? And I was just coming off a training cycle. I was pretty beat up, but I'm like, yeah, sure. And I come in the first day there, and like I'm like supposed to be like the dude at that weight kind of in our room.
Yeah.
And he just puts it on me. I mean, he just beats my butt, man, bad. And I look at Sean, I'm like, and but then just basically on that way home, I was like, dang, I don't get my butt kicked like that ever. And
it was that bad? Like it was
I just like I couldn't do anything. He's outwitting me on everything I was doing, the whole footstep. Like I knew he's gonna do it. He still did it to me. And so basically that kind of for me, if I, like led to like a fight where I'm like, I want to keep training with this guy. And it took me a few weeks and eventually I got the best of him. But I mean he's a sneaky cat. But anyway, so he started liking the training so much that we were there that he extended his trip by a whole nother month. He's only supposed to be there for a month. So he's like, no, I'll stay for another month. And it's cool because him and his coach Chaco they're awesome. But like other RTCs like Ohio and all them are like, hey, come down here. And they're like, he's like, no, only Michigan. And we're just buddies now.
What was his feel? Like what kind of feel did he bring that was different than the other Americans you'd wrestled?
Yeah, well, he's unlike other foreigners because I mean, besides Yazdani, like he's pace, go, which most foreigners are kind of like, lackadaisical and then sting you. Kind of how I wrestle a little bit. But yeah, so he's really good at getting down low and driving in. And he pushed me across the mat, so yeah, that sucked. And then he's quick, he knows what he's doing. I mean, but it's different for him because he grew up in the mud pits where he didn't have traction. He just had to become an athlete, and that's why he's one of the best in the world now.
Yeah, his pace is awesome to see. I love watching the videos of him doing I think it's like 100 burpees in a row or something. He's just an animal in his training.
Yeah, so he gets to practice like an hour early every day, and we'll do stretching or something. But like basically when practice comes, he's ready to go, and it's like I'm rolling in like 20 minutes before, like, all right, But
an hour before?
He gets there pretty darn early, him and his coach. And then they just stay. I think they just spend the whole day in the wrestling room. They just don't leave. so really like it.
You mentioned, and obviously everyone knows you're at Michigan, the Cliff Keen RTC, just awesome facility, the Bonner Wrestling Complex. So you guys got it going on there with the coaches and the athletes. What's a day in the life like when you were training with Bajrang or even now, kind of morning to sunset?
Yeah, I mean, when Bajrang was here, it was still during the COVID crisis lockdown. So we, there wasn't as much people in the room. But usually we would do, a morning workout and maybe something in the evening, or we would just do like one block during the day of, 2 hours. But like at our level of wrestling, you don't have to get in and like grind. I'm not saying you shouldn't, I still think you need to do that, but we can just go over positionings and we can figure out like little minute details that will make like a gut wrench better or like low single defense. And so I worked a lot with like front head pitch with him. He's got a really good front head pitch. And I learned a lot of different tricks from like, instead of like grabbing the chin, like pinch the cheeks together, then you roll and stuff like that. And I'm like, never would have thought of that. So, we just kind of figure out wrestling and then ends up going live wrestling. And, either one of us leave pretty annoyed or not.
What about now? How many times a week are you guys like lifting and running versus mat work?
Yeah, right now we're kind of in an off cycle. I just got back a couple days ago from training out in Ithaca with Kyle Dake and Yanni. So Yeah, I mean, when I was out there, they spent the whole day just in the room doing technique. But at Cliff Keen, Sergey believes that like you get in, you do your work, then you go home. You relax, enjoy your life. So we we'll come in, we play a lot of soccer in the more practice. Gets very competitive, and then we do work technique, work positions. We do some drilling on our own, work on stuff we need to work. Then we do either live positions or we'll go like 30-second goes, you have to score, you're down by a point, Then we always usually end with a match, so we do a lot of matches throughout the week. And I actually think that helps a lot with like tournament simulation because you just do matches all the time.
Yeah. So, and are you lifting a lot too?
Yeah. So we train at a place called Barwis Methods, which basically Barwis is he was the head strength and conditioning coach for U of M, and then now he just does professional athletes. So we train there 2 to 3 times a week, and it's like, nothing but like NFL guys, NHL guys, all these guys. So it's very functional strength training, it's so we can still wrestle throughout the week, but you still get stronger.
I've had him on the podcast. I love that dude.
Yeah, Mike Barwis he's crazy, man.
The raspiness in his voice it just reminds you of like old school Southern football.
Yeah. He's down in Florida now. He runs that place, but we have some other guys up in Michigan that have the original Barwis Methods, and they actually have some wrestling backgrounds too, so they get pretty fired up when we're in there.
Dude, I bet. And so you guys have had so many new guys come into the program in the past couple of years. Derringer, has come in the program. Sergey is like one of the biggest gets that I can remember. Where were you at when you heard the news that Bourmet had brought Sergey in as a coach?
Yeah, so I actually remember this, and it's just funny because it kind of jumps to like me leveling up in wrestling mindset wise the past few years. So Sergey and his brother Anatoly came through. They're doing like a tour across the US, and they ran a camp in Ann Arbor. And like I knew they were good wrestlers, but I didn't know how good of wrestlers they were, because they're just the old Russian dudes. And they're showing me like step overthrows and arm spins, like stuff I've never hit in my life, never even learned, right? I'm like, this is goofy. Like, why this guy, like, this doesn't work, this step overthrow. And no matter what I could do, how many times I practiced it, it was never right. It was like wrong, over and over. Anyway, so I Googled him later that day, and I started watching his technique and watching his videos. And I was like, dude, he was doing exactly what he showed me on NCAA national champs and world medalists. Like he's pretty good. And then, so then he ended up coming to Michigan and training and like being our coach. And it took me like 2 months to like understand his humor, understand his training process. I mean, his English was still very choppy. So like he would say things that I kind of thought he's like insulting me, but it's just like he didn't know how to say anything else, And then I kind of started like buying into his process, started hitting his stuff. I'm like, oh, it works. He's a good guy. He wants the best for me.
He loves the big throws.
Yeah.
Is that the biggest change when working with him?
Well, the funny thing too is he'll laugh at you if you do something and it doesn't work. He'll be like, "Ha, that's terrible. You're awful." Like if you start getting turned in a gut wrench, you'd be like, that's two. You're gonna get tacked. That's two. I'll start yelling at you, But yeah, I mean, I practice throws now, and eventually I'll get in a match. My gut wrench got better, defense has got better. So I mean, what he's showing is working.
He's got to be good to have in the corners at those tournaments over in like Eastern Europe, where some shenanigans may happen from time to time, and having someone like that in the corner's got to help.
Well, as far as coaching wise in the corner, like he's very quiet. He's like, okay, keep going. Okay. Like, he doesn't really coach, besides practice. But if you travel with him, he's a celebrity. Like as soon as you get off the plane, there's people there waiting to take pictures of Sergey, like he's like, I mean, he's a big deal overseas. So
even still. Oh
yeah. I mean, if you show up to a wrestling tournament, you'll as soon as you walk in the doors, you hear Sergey, hello, Sergey. Like everyone knows Sergey, and he's got friends everywhere. He's coached everywhere. So
yeah, like Japan. He's been at the OTC. I mean, I was looking back at his resume because I was at Bana last Friday interviewing him for a documentary I'm working on. It's like the dude never lost, like at world or Olympic competition. He got 1 silver, I think, but besides that, man, and if they didn't cancel 84 Olympics, he could have been a 3-time Olympic gold medalist.
Yeah. No, he honestly got, I mean, it's funny because I asked him, I'm like, I'm like, Sergey, are you the best wrestler ever? You know, he's like, me, no, you know, but like, I mean, the people he says are the best wrestlers ever are like guys who are like 1 or 2 time world champs, but he's like their technique, they're like how they did it, they were the best. You know, I actually forget their names, but I mean, he's like, yeah, he's like, no. It's like it's about technique. He doesn't care about the medals and all that kind of stuff. He cares about like how effortless it is to defeat someone. And so you just again, there's levels to it. He's just like, I'm trying to get up right here. He's already up right there. So
he knows so much. Do you ever wrestle with him, like on parterre or even in like front headlocks?
Yeah, well, I mean, so he'll do that when he'll show moves like, okay, go live, you know, and then you start going live like, okay, stop, you know, because like you hurt him. But if he locks a gut wrench on you, he'll turn you. I mean,
no,
like, even me, I've got callus over ribs now, but if he locks, he'll turn me. Like he's good at it.
So outside of the in the room training, you seem like you've really made some changes in your approach to life and just like your diet and your kind of your self-talk and visualization over the past couple of years. How are you spending the rest of your day kind of in an effort to improve?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what the training cycle is. Like,
let's say you're like 6 weeks out from the world team trials this fall. Like you're in the peak of it.
Right. So, 6 weeks, my diet's always very good. I don't put, bad food in my body really ever. I think the best, probably what's helped me a lot, I'm going to dive back into is I just, I taper my weight training a little bit more, and I focus more on wrestling. Also, I wrestled to get down to weight now instead of like running to get down to weight, so I think that's a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, I just focus on my diet, get good sleep, make sure I get really good training. I'm not too worried about being like sharp and like sharpening up the week before. I'm just worried about like making sure that I can control what I can control and trust in my training.
The tapering off the weights is definitely a thing that you feel like most Americans don't do enough of sometimes. Like, when did that start for you?
Yeah. So I started realizing that during like, I would say the Big Tens and NCAAs when I was doing that in college, because we would do, throughout the whole season, we'd grind, we'd wrestle a lot, and then we'd weight train and run a lot. And then I always thought I wrestled best at Big Tens and NCAAs, and I started looking at the traits that we were doing, and yeah, we stopped weight training. If we did weight training, it was just quick, like body weight stuff, explosive, low impact, but like efficient. And I mean, I just felt better wrestling it like that. So I'm like, maybe I should do that with my own training now. And, it turns out the coaches, Sean has a bunch of tricks up his sleeves, and he has a madness, and he has a whole program about tapering and all that kind of stuff. So, so that's what I do. So I would say like the week and a half before, no heavy weight training, maybe a week before you can do some explosive workouts, but the week of, you should not be doing stuff like that.
Bro, I love how methodical Barmet is. He's got systems and just plans mapped out, I'm sure, for days.
Yeah, no, he's a super smart dude. He knows wrestling.
How did he first get involved in your life? Was he coaching and recruiting you?
So he was the assistant coach at Michigan. Joe McFarland was the head coach when I came in there. And sorry, excuse me. Allergies.
No problem.
Yeah, so Sean, he we kind of have a thing in Michigan where it's like each coach is like the kind of the personal coach for certain weights, right? So Sean was more like, the upper weight guys.
Okay.
Personally, I had Josh Torello. Josh was like my mentor. And then we had Joe was kind of lower weight guys. It just kind of worked out well. So Sean, for the first like really, I don't know, I'd say 2.5 years, he really didn't like coach me that much. Like he talked to me, but he wasn't really my guy. That was Josh. And Josh still is my guy. But when I started getting into freestyle, that's when Sean kind of started coming in and showing me these little things and, like things I never knew. And then when he became the head coach, he became a lot more interactive with like my wrestling because I established myself in the lineup and everything. And yeah, so it was kind of like it transcended into that, and now Sean's like my right hand man. Like I call him up if I need something, he can help me out.
So Josh Torello was the guy who recruited you, or did you walk on?
I was a walk on. Yeah.
You were.
Yeah.
See, I know you had some an injury your junior year, but I mean, still, you were a state champ as a sophomore. had one of the craziest state finals that I can find online your senior year. We'll talk about that. It's freaking nuts. But but I know you didn't wrestle a lot of freestyle. And so you literally walked on. Had you been recruited to other schools?
So I was a 2-time state qualifier, right? 2-time state finalist and then 1-time champ. And I was good in high school. I just I didn't get there. I never went to Fargo. I didn't go to Disney duels or I went to Super 32 in middle school. I didn't go to these big tournaments where college coaches go to recruit. But I beat good guys. Like at Virginia Beach, I beat guys who were like top 10, top 15 in the nation. But so some people knew about me, some didn't. So Michigan, I picked Michigan because my uncle went there and I liked the program. I liked, the alumni base, everything like that. But
so you hadn't been called by those guys ahead of time before you got
there?
Yeah.
Like Ohio State, for example, Tom Ryan, he's very upfront with me. He's like, hey, listen, he actually told my uncle, he's like, your nephew, he's really good. He's a really good wrestler. We'd love to have him here, but we have all our money tied up with Micah Jordan. Micah Jordan's a big recruit.
Mm-hmm.
Same with Virginia Tech. They had a guy named Solomon Shisco who I lost to. Actually, he was a big recruit coming out of high school, and at Central too. It's the guys were like, yeah, we don't really much money for you, but we'd love to have you here. So I figure if I'm going to walk on any program, I'd rather walk onto a place where I'm either going to sink or swim.
Right.
Michigan.
And you ended up starting as a true freshman, right?
Correct. Yeah. I went to the freshman sophomore division tournament at MSU and I won that. And then I won the wrestle off and I was kind of worried. I was asking some of the guys on the team, I'm like, am I good enough to start? And they're like, dude, you've won everything so far. You're good enough to start. And I ended up wrestling, got Dave Habit the first round, my very first match in college wrestling. And he ended up being the national finals of that year, So I lost him. Oh yeah, no, he knocked me out and pinned me. But yeah. So
but didn't you win did you win the Cliff Keen tournament your first year as a freshman?
My freshman year. So I took second. I lost to give him Cornell.
Oh, Chris Villonga. Yeah. But so to come from that August, you're a walk-on. And then by that December, you take second at the Vegas tournament. That's a pretty incredible jump. If you're not coming from your perspective, if you're looking from the outside in.
Yeah. So that was actually probably what made me realize I was ready for college wrestling too. Is I wrestled. The two guys wrestled at MSU Open was Dave Habit and Taiwan Claxton, both who were ranked top 5 in the nation at the time, and they both beat me. The one was really bad. Dave knocked me out, like I said. And then I kind of figured out I have to do something here. Or I'm gonna swim. I'm gonna sink. I'm not gonna be swimming. And then so at Cliff Keen, I was very loose and I have nothing to lose, and I made the finals. And that's when I kind of realized I'm like, dang, I beat some pretty good guys, and I can keep going. And towards the end of the year, at the NCAA tournament, I was the 6th seed. I ended up losing the first round, but
damn.
I kept that progression going.
The 6th seed, that's incredible. So you mentioned the first tournament you went to, you had the 2 losses. Did you place at that one or you did not place?
So that was a team duel.
Got it. Okay. Got it. So you lose your opening 2 duels, and that had to be a big gut check moment, huh?
Yeah. And then, you go to the wrestling room the next couple of days and it's you're wrestling guys like Brian Murphy, who's he's very good and he was just kicking my butt too. And I was just getting my butt kicked a lot. And I kind of was in a dark place. And I kind of had to realize I'm I got to start swimming or I'm going to keep sinking. And that's when Cliff Keen tournament came right around the corner.
What was the spark of inspiration to get you thinking that way?
It's getting your butt kicked, man. No one liked it.
Yeah. So did you, as a kid growing up, were you one of those kids who always just had a lot of confidence in the way you wrestled, or did you struggle with that throughout middle school and high school?
I think I was always a little, I'm very athletically gifted, I'm pretty fast, pretty strong. And that started, I've been working on my entire life, even when I was young, but in high school, I was always bigger, faster and stronger than a lot of guys. So I was pretty confident in that. But with that said, I knew how to wrestle, but I didn't know wrestling. And that's what I had to relearn when I got to college is like, I mean, I always had this like thing where I'd go when I was drilling, you know. I didn't understand about slowing down your drilling and learning wrestling. I never understood it. So I had to relearn all that. And that's probably what made me a better college wrestler than, you know, than in the past. But
yeah, I mean, you just, even in the match your senior year, you were just going, man. You were going right for it. And for folks who don't know, you come from a huge wrestling family. Your uncle was a junior world champ over in the motherland, Russia. That had to be a crazy story passed around the table growing up. You know, two-time finalist for Michigan. And then your dad was a D3 All-American as well, a couple-time All-American. So wrestling was around a lot, but I mean, what do you remember from just like the stories of your dad and your uncle and their wrestling tales as a young kid?
well, you know, it's kind of funny because when I talk to my uncle, it's not really stories about him. It's stories about the people that he wrestled with, right? So I hear lots of stories about Dave Schultz and Kenny Monday and all that kind of stuff. His time at Foxcatcher, you know, all that kind of cool stuff. And to be honest, that's like I kind of try to do the same stories. Like when people ask me about my wrestling, I'd rather talk about like being around Sean and Sergey and, you know, Josh Trella and the Amin brothers. You know, I think that's pretty cool. But
Yeah.
yeah, it just you don't realize how good these dudes actually were. Like, I never realized how good my uncle actually was, especially in high school. Like in high school, I was a state champ as a sophomore, and he had me go through a practice, and I was like, this is dumb. This is never gonna work. You know, I thought I knew everything.
Oh
You
no.
know, like he had me do one thing where like he had me like tie my arms together and wrestle like this. You know, I'm like, this is dumb. You can wrestle like this whenever you want. You know, and later on, I was trying to wrestle. Oh, about up and in positioning, staying right here, don't being exposed. I'm like, I didn't know. I wasn't exposed to it enough. And that's when you realize just how good like my Uncle Joe and my dad and everyone actually were.
So he had a practice where he tied your wrists together to keep good positioning.
Yeah. And it was so annoying too, because I mean, how he would teach me too, he'd be like, all right, like what's next? Like he'd ask me like the progression or something. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think this is the right step to begin with, you know, like, but what he was trying to teach you is to like think about wrestling. Think about, if I do this, then what do I do? Then what do I do? Then what that, and that steps. And Sean Bourmet does the same thing. He has he actually will count when he wrestles about step 1, step 2, step 3. Like he knows it responds to everything. But again, back when I was in high school, I was just hitting moves, go, 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 go. I wasn't thinking about it. And you know, you need to learn proper technique before the speed comes. So
I love that he broke it out like that and was that kind of strategic with the steps and like thinking ahead 2-3 moves in advance.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what I'm doing now in my freestyle career is I'm understanding the steps. If I start gutting this way, he defends, and I switch this side, he's gonna fight that side. I'm gonna go the other way again. You know, it's a step. You don't just hit a gut wrench. You know.
So what happened your junior year in high school? Why you couldn't compete?
Yeah. So just high school career summed up basically freshman year. It's kind of funny because Malik Amini, he's like my teammate now. He's one of my really, really good buddies, but
yeah,
we always ended each other's seasons in high school. So freshman year, to even get to the state tournament, he beat me in the blood round. Sophomore year, I beat him in the state finals. You know, junior year, we were at different weights, thankfully, but he ended up winning state title again. I broke my hand at their school tournament. Coincidence, right? No.
How late into the season?
It was a mid season.
Oh my God. It had to be brutal.
Yeah, it was that was a bummer because I was teching and pinning everyone. I was wrestling really well.
Wow.
But then senior year, he pinned me in 30 seconds in state finals, you know. So
we got to set the stage though. So you go into the match undefeated, right? Like 51-0.
Yeah, I didn't have a match go the entire like match. I either teched or pinned everyone by the second period.
And so this has got to be, you know, I'm an Illinois guy, but I got to imagine if you're a Michigan guy, this has got to be one of the most epic state finals in history. Kind of up to that point, was the chatter the whole weekend just you guys getting at it in the finals?
Yeah, I mean, we were both undefeated wrestlers, and we kind of knew we'd see each other in the finals. I mean, I was so confident though my senior year that I was like, I wanted to get a tech or pin again. You know, that's what I was doing. You know, my dad was my coach, and he'd actually make games. He's like, see if you can tech a guy off takedowns. See if you can get a guy like to get stalled out of the match, stuff like that. So I was going. And but Malik, he's a great wrestler. He's really good. And I think within 5 seconds of that match, I shot like 4 different shots. And
Seriously.
I just boom run after it, and I fell right into a cradle, within 30 seconds, and he pinned me. So he won it, man. Malik did. He had a game plan. He's like, I talked to him after, like a couple years later. He's like, yeah, no, we won. You should have had outside single so we could cradle you. I was like,
damn.
But.
So after that, did you ever consider not wrestling in college?
No. I committed to Michigan by then. We were both Michigan commits.
Got it. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So it was it was just some friendly competitiveness that we had. I knew I'd wrestle the next year in college, anyways. So and now like we're both at Cliff Keen. We both represent different countries, and we're really, really good buddies. So he's a very important person to my wrestling career.
It's cool that the Michigan squad is so tight because you guys have had relatives that had wrestled during kind of similar times. I believe your uncle probably wrestled with Mr. Amin. Were they on the same teams?
Yeah, my uncle, I think the same year they both made the finals.
Crazy.
Malik's dad and Malik Miles' dad, and then my uncle Joe. Yeah.
And so you guys are all there now. I mean, Michigan is obviously one of the top programs, but the culture seems really tight. What do you, when you look back on your career, like wrestling for Michigan, what jumps out to you there?
So I didn't grow up like when you get to Michigan, you see a lot of these people that grew up maize and blue. Like that's the only thing they knew. Their parents and their grandparents went to Michigan, big on tradition. For me, like, again, I wasn't expecting to wrestle in Michigan. I was just hoping, maybe I can get into school there. And the big thing that I took away is the Michigan man idea. It's a thing, we like the people in Michigan hold themselves to a very high standard, especially the athletes.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you kind of have to when the people next to you. I mean, you have Olympians that you go to class with, you have Big Ten champs, you got ex-Michigan alumni who are presidents, that went to the moon. It's the Michigan man idea. It's an actual thing, and call it a chip on your shoulder all you want, but it helps you in life knowing that like you're on good company.
Bro, Tom Brady went to Michigan. Let's go. I mean, geez. That's awesome. And I mean, for folks who aren't super deep into the freestyle scene, you've really been coming on at is it 150 or is it 150 and a half?
154.
154. And so it's that weight that it's kind of the tweener weight, but you've really come into your own there. And just this past couple of weeks ago, took out a super high level dude and Haji, and then, avenged an earlier loss to James Green. When you have a performance like that, how do you process it and look back on it?
Well, looking back, here's the thing: is you're gonna learn way more from your losses than you ever will from your wins, right? So that match against Aliyev, I've watched it one time. The matches I've lost to James Green, I've watched, I don't know, countless times.
Yeah.
So I like the stuff I did. I mean, I like that I was able to scramble a little bit against Aliyev. I like that my shots were working. The one thing I learned a lot from the match, though, was, and that's what makes him a good wrestler, is he was attacking one side the entire time. And in the last 10 seconds of the match, he shoots the opposite side single, catching me right to a gut wrench. I'm like, that's high level sneaky stuff.
Dang.
I heard Kolot did a similar thing about he would attack one side the entire period, second period, light up the other side. And it was funny because as soon as I walked off the mat, Sergey was like, Alec, you got gut wrenched. He didn't say good job. He was like, you gave him the gut, like he couldn't believe it.
Why? He just doesn't believe people should get turned, or what?
He just knows that like if that would have been 5 seconds earlier, then it could have been a different match. Like he took me down, gutted me, and then timer ran out, and I won on criteria.
Right.
Another 5 seconds, he would have got another gut. Like that would suck to lose a match that way.
Oh my God. But I mean, you held through though, man. And even crazier is that on the first day, when you first lost to James, was that the same day or a day before?
Yeah, it was the same day. I wrestled James second round. It was pools. The pools crossed over.
Dude, what an emotional swing. I mean, so you lose that match, and then you have, what is Haji, like a 3-time world champ?
Would say that one more time. Oh yeah. Yeah. He's an Olympic bronze medalist and then 3-time world champ.
And then in the finals, you have James again. I mean, that's got to be, I don't know how many times you guys have wrestled. What happened in that match?
Yeah, here's the thing. Every time I've lost to James, I wrestled him 4 times now. I'm 3-1 against him. And the times I lost, the matches were closer than what the score actually showed. Like I lost him 4-2 at the Flow 8-man bracket.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I tried throwing a headlock out of bounds. I don't do that to tie up match. At the US Open in Vegas, or not Vegas, but in Iowa, I tried throwing again out of bounds and I gave him like 3 or 4 push outs, so that's a couple points right there that you can fix. And then, yeah, so at, when I wrestled him the first time again in Poland, tried throwing, I keep the same mistakes, kept giving up the underhooks, and he pushed me out like 3 times. And right after that match, Sean and I, like, we're like, all right, we're going to fix this right now. So we worked on not giving up underhooks, clearing the arm, don't throw anymore, and wrestle from your positions. And that's what I did that final match. And he had no offense really. Like he was scoring off my stuff before. I just didn't give him that to do. And it worked out. So
I love it, man. Huge win. And obviously much respect to the great James Green. I'm excited for you guys to throw down again later this year. What is the process for the World Team Trials for the non-Olympic weights?
Yeah, so at the World Team Trials during September, and I'm hearing other rumors like guys like Jordan Oliver and Zane Rutherford to be going 70. So we'll have a share of good guys. But how it'll work is you have to make the finals, and then whoever's in the finals is best 2 of 3, and then the next month, whoever wins that goes to the World Championships in Norway. So
there is, all right, so say that again. So it's the World Team Trials. Does anyone have a bye to the finals, or is everyone just in the bracket?
No, the only person who would have a bye would be if you medal at the Olympics. So if Dake medals, because there's no 165, if Dake medals, he's automatically on the world team the next year, or for the next 2 months.
Yeah.
But I don't think he'll be going 70. So
no, yeah. So everyone in the bracket. So you'll come through the bracket, all those guys you just mentioned, and then the finals best 2 out of 3, like the next day, and then the World Championships is a month later.
Yeah, it's in Norway in October.
Got it. Okay, man, that's going to be exciting to watch, especially just seeing your progression. Couple last more rapid fire questions for you, then we'll wrap up. So, how do you think about like visualization and self-talk? Is that something you're big into?
Yeah, I kind of wonder sometimes if I have this thing called toxic positivity, to some people. I think I've brainwashed myself to just be positive in life, like even some days, like I'll wake up, I'm like, oh, I'm so sore, but I'm like, hey, I'm up, I'm alive, which it makes it hard for me to like talk to some people that like are going through tough times, because I'm always so positive. So that's something I'm kind of figuring out. But yeah,
where'd you get that from?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I just
have you always had it?
I just see a lot of successful people, and they always seem very positive. I've never seen like a negative successful person, and I think over years and years of just me like trying to replicate that, like it's the only thing I know now. Like, don't get me wrong, I can be negative at times, but then I'll even say, I'm like, that was a negative thing I just said. Why did I say that? Let's say something positive. I was trying to counter, So yeah, that's one thing I do is I try and stay very positive in life.
And do you have any mantras or things you say to yourself day of, or like 10 minutes before the match, if any type of negative thoughts starts to creep in?
Not negative. I get nervous. I mean, everyone gets nervous, like what if? But then I just kind of tell myself, I'm like, the hay's in the barn, I trust my training. That's one thing I've started doing is trust my training.
Mm-hmm.
And because when you think you have a lag time, like your body can't react as fast, So I just kind of wrestle mindlessly and trust my training. And so far it's been working.
And one of the other things I wanted to ask you is, you mentioned earlier that you had just gone out to Cornell to train with Yanni and Dake. What did you like? Was anything that stuck out about their approach that was different from what you guys are used to?
Yeah. So, I mean, wrestling a guy like Kyle Dake, it's difficult because, I mean, I think I'm a pretty good wrestler now, but like I had nothing for him. I mean, he's everything I could do. He kind of just did a little bit better, and so obviously whatever he's doing is working for him. But then I kind of think I'm like, he's always been this good. Like his entire life, he's won everything. You know, he might just be one of those anomalies of the world.
I don't think people realize what level he's on right now. It's
he's
like
gonna win. He's gonna win the Olympics going away. Like he's that good.
He wasn't even. Again, all respect to Jordan Burroughs. I didn't think he was pushed in those matches to like any type of breaking point. Dake wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, like here's the thing. So Jordan Burroughs scored an 8-point in 2 matches on him, right? And it was a push-out, I believe.
Yeah.
I wrestled him, had nothing for him. Almost got a takedown. Yanni wrestled him, had nothing for him. Like everyone I've ever seen him wrestle, that's good. Just, I mean, he wipes house with him, you know. Got like Alex Daringer. He wrestled Alex Daringer a few years ago. Daringer is one of the best in the world. I think Daringer could win a world championship, you know, in the next couple of months. But he had nothing for him. Like all these guys, like
yeah,
he's just that good, you know.
Yeah, he really is. Sadakov also that good though. That is a match I can't wait for. So obviously we're all looking forward to the Olympics. I know you have your own guys you're going to be watching. The Serbian Sickles back. We got a meme going over there. So will you be at the Olympics?
No, I won't be, unfortunately. I'd rather be wrestling anyways, but
for sure.
Yeah, so Stevan and Miles, I think they have very, very good shots of winning the Olympics. I really do. Like they're that good, especially in freestyle. And they're both top 3 seeds, you know. So as long as they're not, I mean, even if they're wrestling USA, I'd probably be voting for them. But all the USA guys I'll be rooting for, then those 2 guys. So
for sure, man. Well, all of this, you know, Olympic festivities talk, you know, it reminds me of obviously like the world championships at the junior level. I know you were on the junior world team, went to France. Let's just wind down with this. You know, what was it like representing the red, white, and blue for the first time at the junior worlds?
You know, here's the thing about it is I always just wanted to get my name in the back of a singlet, you know, and then I got my name with the USA on it, you know, and that was like a huge stepping stone. And that was probably my demise at junior worlds is I was just kind of happy I was there. Now it's like, I'm not happy that I'm here. I'm here to win, you know? So that was a learning moment for me. The real, you know, sugar on top would be when you step on top of the podium and they play the national anthem. First time that happened to me, I was in Cuba, and, you know, everyone stood up and you had your hand right here and you look at that flag being raised. That was real cool. I was taking some mental pictures on that. So,
dude, that's awesome. Well, many more to come in the future. Alec Pantaleo, thanks for joining the show, man. That's it for this episode, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. This episode was brought to you by MANSCAPED. Get 20% off on your next purchase with the promo code WCML at manscaped.com.